Yo, what's up, guys? So today we're going to be going over a Draft League core video. I used to do these all the time on my channel. I used to call them Draft League Viabilities, but with me getting back into Draft League and this being a whole new meta, I wanted to try to do something that was kind of sort of back to my roots that I enjoyed doing. And this is going to be just a Draft League core that if you guys are looking to draft in your current upcoming leagues, what you can try to draft around. And since so many old Pokemon got new moves that made them so much better, I wanted to try to show you guys some cool cores around them. So, for example, LATIOS. LATIOS got some really cool moves this gen. For example, it got Aura Sphere, it got Mystical Fire. I'm trying to think. I believe there's the only two really important ones. Like, it got Baton Pass for Dry Pass. Let's see. Is there anything else that's like super like out there that it didn't have before? I don't think it had stored power. It might have had stored power. But ultimately, the big thing with this thing is it now has the ability to take down steel types with Mystical Fire and wait, doesn't it get Nasty Plot now? It doesn't. Okay. It has the ability to take out steels with Aura Sphere and Mystical Fire. So a really easy thing to build around this with LATIOS. You want this to be either your sweeper, your cleaner, or your breaker, right? You don't want this to be your fat ground immunity. So I think something really important to allow this to do what it needs to as an offensive capability is to get a really good ground resist. First thing that comes to mind is a really fat grass type. Now, me personally, I like grass types that can recover for themselves or set up stealth rocks. Now, a really easy one that you can do is you can do Rillaboom, because it would give you grassy terrain, making it to where everything can take earthquakes a little bit better and making ground types not even really want to come, freeing up that fat standpoint for LATIOS. You can do something like Tangrowth if you want to have the recovery for it. But if you want to do something a little bit more low tier, you can do Zarude. Now, Zarude is really cool because it gives you pivoting, it gives you a dark type, it gives you a ground resist with really fat ground resist as well, with 105, and a pretty good speed at 105. I know a lot of people think speed tiers are important. I'm not one of them. So my top 3 suggestions would be Tangrowth, Rillaboom, or Zarude, depending on what you wanted to do with your tiering. Now, the reason why I'm a big Celebi Celebi stan, the reason why I don't think you should ever do Celebi with LATIOS is the dual psychic types. Neither one of them is a super fat psychic type. Both of them are mildly offensive. Both of them mildly do about the same thing. So you don't want to do that. You could do Decidueye, but then you have a pretty big ghost weakness that I dislike, as well as dark. Same thing with Delmise. You could do Rotom-Mow, but then you have another Levitator, which isn't bad, but I like to spread out my abilities and get different types of things. And Rotom-Mow I don't look at as a fat grass because I don't know, it's just not the same. So for me personally, I would go Zarude, and only because it's new, it has access to U-turn, which is a really cool pivoting option to get your LATIOS in. And if you pair these two up together, there isn't much that they can't do for each other. This thing can kind of sort of force in Fat Fairies to weaken for LATIOS, to be able to spam Dracos, to be able to spam Calm Mind Dragon Pulses, DD Dragon Claws, anything along those lines. So I really like Zarude plus LATIOS. And the other thing that I think you're going to want pressured is you want something that can also force in Fat Fairy types to be able to weaken them. So you want a fighting type. Now, this is not your standard core. This is how I tend to build around something. This is how I tend to go, okay, I want this to be my main cleaner every single week, whether it's with Calm Mind, whether it's with Dragon Dance, whether it's with Shell Smash. I want something that can pressure what typically checks that Pokemon. And so you have a couple options. I personally would want a fighting type that gets U-turn. So top option for me would be Galar Zap. I think that'd be so cool to have LATIOS plus Galar Zap together. Galar Zap is a phenomenal breaker. It really does pressure the fat fairies. It really pressures the fat poisons that LATIOS can break through anyway. It really pressures the fat steals that Lottie may not want to bring. Zarude plus Zapdos together can really pressure those two. So Galar Zap would be top option if possible. Like if you have a wheel pick and they're both still there, easy, do it. Or if you have like mid draft and these are both somehow still there, go for it. But you have a couple more options that I think are pretty unique. Blaziken I think is really cool because it does get U-turn now. It does bring in the fat waters as well, which you can U-turn into Zarude to be able to break the fat waters, which you can then U-turn out of Zarude into LATIOS, which you can then baton pass. Really good pivoting core. So really cool. Really good speed tiers with Blaziken as well as Galar Zap, I guess. But you go 110, 105, 100. Meh. I like 80, 105, 110 a little bit more. So Blaziken is another top tier pick. Keldeo would be really cool too with flip turn now. It gets access to flip turn. It would force in the bulky waters again that you can then flip turn on to go into Zarude, which forces out to U-turn to bring in the fat steel types to go back into Keldeo. And you can get a really nice flip turn, U-turn, baton pass core with Keldeo as well. I think I might like Keldeo a little bit more than Zapdos actually, just because I love Keldeo as a Pokemon. But if you want low tier again, you can go Mienshao. It gets access to close combat. It has reckless high jump kick, super good. Regenerator, super good. But I think for me, something that might be more reasonable, I really like this core here. Now, this is more of an offensive core with a little bit of fat in with Zarude. So, I also want to go over a fat core that you can get with LATIOS. So, you have your LATIOS. You want to be able to take certain hits. Now, of course, if you're able to get LATIOS, Keldeo, Zarude, and then these next two to be able to take the hits for LATIOS, do it. Like it's not a well, you might want to consider. No, do it because this is going to cover their weaknesses amazingly. So, first thing, you already have a really good ice resisting Keldeo, but Keldeo is an offensive water. I always like a fat water with an offensive water. That's just me personally. So something that you can do that would also help out your Zarude, Keldeo, and Lottie is get shocker. Who would have expected that I would have said this? Vaporeon is my favorite fat water. Wish support into Zarude and Keldeo is phenomenal. You have really good electric resists here. You have really good grass resists here to where you can actually take this on pretty well. And then I guess the other one would be if you want to be able to take on both Dark and Ghost, meaning that you want a pretty good Dark type with it, aside from Zarude, I guess. Well, you already have Zarude, so this is a phenomenal core for LATIOS defensively, as well as offensively. I guess a Fairy type wouldn't be bad to be able to take on the other Fairy type moves. Actually, a Fat Steel to switch in. Let's see. There are no rockers with this yet, so that's pretty important. I think a good steel type with a rocker might actually, like a good steel type as a rocker might be important for this core specifically. Cobalion might not be bad, but so here's an issue that I have with Cobalion as a Pokemon. Whenever I draft a steel type to go with a dragon type that I want to be like one of my main win cons, right? Cobalion has the issue to where it does not resist fairy. So now you have two fighting types, a dark type, and a dragon type. Nothing resists fairy. So it means you have to get a fat poison type, which is a lot more useless in my opinion. So I'm going to stay away from Cobalion. Metagross, 2 psychics. Steelix wouldn't be bad for a low tier. Yeah, I think Steelix might be like the best play for a fat, because then you have a really good electric type immunity for your Keldeo and your Vaporeon. You have a good Wish Pass option with Fizdef and Spidef taken care of along with Fat Zarude. You have another Baton Passer. I would go with this. This is a really good offensive core here, as well as defensive core here. Now, the reason why I think this is more than just a defensive offensive core around LATIOS Keldeo can be fat. Keldeo can be extremely fat to be able to take on things like Weavile, things along those lines. Zarude can be extremely fat. It can be very, very fat. With 105, 105 plus Wish support with U-turn is really good. This thing gets access to Flip Turn. This thing gets access to Baton Pass as well as Flip Turn. So you have a really good pivoting core. This thing gets access to Baton Pass. And if you are still scared of steel types, you can get a fire type with this. You have Keldeo for fighting. You have Aura Sphere and Mystical Fire now. But above all else, you have Iron Defense, Body Press. This looks like a really good core to me. I'm going to try not to use Vaporeon on every single one of these videos, but this looks like a really good core that I think you guys should try out, just because it does have so many different options for so many different forms of players. If you're a fat player, it has really, really fat mons. If you're an offensive player, it has really fast offensive mons. If you're more of a balanced player, it has a good balance build. So I think it has something for everybody. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys would want to pair with LATIOS in Gen 7. Now remember this, or I'm sorry, Gen 8. This is a Gen 8 Wi-Fi suggestions. If we're not doing Wi-Fi, we can suggest a whole lot more, but I think that this specifically looks really, really good for a Gen 8 Wi-Fi league. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, but thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.